Hey there, Blue Mages, Liam here. Welcome back to Blue Academy. As I'm sure you've seen, it's about to be Tomestone season again. It took me a couple days to test some things and actually have the time to do this, but I looked at it and I've got some basic recommendations for how to farm Tomestones. Now, the bad news is the list of duties is not as generous as in the past. We definitely don't have T2 again. We're missing Aurum Veil, which is the classic one. So it's not going to be as easy as last time around, but we'll talk about what we're going to be doing. I'm actually going to be talking about the specific duties and what I think about them and what I tested at the end of the video. That way we can just get right into what I'm recommending. But what I am recommending here is Brayflox Long Stop Hard. And I recorded a quick and dirty just run with some folks. So we'll go over that and we'll see how to actually run that. All right, so here we go. We're just hopping right into Brayflox. The scariest part of this entire run is actually this first pull. It would be easier with a non-blue mage tank, but that makes it so that the last boss is not guaranteed to die before it transitions into an untargetable phase, so we are going with 4 blues this time. I do have one that's using Tank, Mimic, and Mighty Guard, and that's me, and that's just because this first pull is just, it's terrifying. While running up the stairs, I did do a Swift Cast Dragon Force. I should have done it later, like right when I'm about to get the last enemy. And that's just to buy me a little bit more time. But here, we're going to round up enemies. Here, I'm actually just going to be diamond backing in a moment because this is just a lot of damage. Really, what I should have done is pulled all of these on top of the Galago there, but I messed up and did not, and that kind of eats some time from us. That's okay. We just gotta missile this down. Missile it down, and then we keep going. Now, this first boss is vulnerable to death effects, so we're gonna missile it down. The other 2 bosses are not, but that's fine. We can kill them really quickly anyway. In this next room, we just got to save some gobbies, so we're going to do that. We're going to aggro this guy, run through, look back because there's going to be 2 that spawn afterwards. You don't want to forget those, otherwise it wastes time. We'll round up everything else. Things like Hydro Pull would be really helpful here. It can round up enemies really well. You can see while I'm trying to avoid dying, I end up kind of moving all over the place. Luckily, these are close enough that we're able to ultra vibe all of them at once. I turned off Mighty Guard here because I was contemplating doing a Moonflute opener with people on this next boss. It's not actually needed. 3 can do it, but the boss only autos me twice, and I dodge one, and the other one is just, it tickles me. So I should have turned off my Mighty Guard here and done a Moonflute opener. It's not going to save a ton of time. It'll be like a few seconds, but yeah. Here's me waiting for people to load in. And we'll just pull him. And he's going to die before we even get to the Matcha Magic part of Moonflute for most of the people. So, pretty easy. Now, my spells are actually messed up here. I was missing my Moonflute and my Whistle, so I'm trying to fix that really quick. But I don't finish that. So we're going to come in here. We've got 2 Gobbies and this Coral. We're just going to freeze these and vibe check these. So here I'm saying, wait, I need a second because my spells are messed up. Grab my Whistle, put it on my bar. Gotta put Moonflute on my bar. We went into this with like 0 prep, so it's actually a pretty good representation of what you can expect from Party Finder. In this last group, there's going to be a bird that jumps down from the cliff. Make sure you don't forget that. It's the same thing as the Galago and the first pull. I'm going to make sure that things are all together.
so that you can kill them all. Then we got to grab the key. And now I'm just explaining how we're going to do the last boss. And basically, I'm just going to do a countdown timer of 10 seconds. And we're going to all whistle, moon flute, swift cast. And when the timer hits 0, we're going to final sting. Now, I should have taken my Mighty Guard off for this. There's no reason to have my Mighty Guard on. I'm going to be dying anyway because of final sting. But we get lucky. We get a DPS crit on it. And only 2 of the DPS actually get their stings off. So functionally, we got 2.5 stings, and the boss still died. Now, if you don't get any crits or direct hits, you do need all 4 final stings, which is why I should have turned off Mighty Guard, but we got a little bit lucky there. So let's talk about rewards for a second. The run there took us about 4.5 minutes. Even less if you count how much time we wasted from extra enemies, me typing things out, me fixing my spells. But let's just say it's about 5 minutes counting the loading screens. If you cannot burst the second boss, then it's probably going to be 6 or more minutes, but that's still not terrible. But it's definitely in your best interest to learn how to do a moon flute opener and be able to execute that, because that will save you the most time. Not just for this event, but for any Blue Mage event. Now we also are getting 4 tomestones per run, which is pretty decent. You can get 12 runs in per hour, which means we're getting about 60 tomestones per hour. Now I think Square has effectively sort of nerfed us because, you know, T2 was crazy. We're getting like 120 tomestones per hour. The AV runs tended to be pretty good. They're like 80 to 100 tomestones per hour. So here we're definitely getting less, but we're still able to get quite a few. So that's pretty decent. Now, any of the alternatives with 3 tomestones would need to be done in 3 minutes 45 seconds, counting our loading screens to be equal, and any faster, well, they would be, you know, faster. Things like Sunken Temple of Karn and Cutter's Cry can be better for a group if they are completely clueless about Blue Mage. If you can't do a Moon Flute opener, those are probably going to be more straightforward. There are more deathable bosses. The first 2 bosses in Cutter's Cry are deathable. The last 2 bosses in Sunken Temple of Karn are deathable. Karn is a little bit scary because the bees can't be frozen, so if you try to do the first pull all at once, you risk your tank dying, getting double stung or something like that. But overall, those dungeons are much easier. They just will be slower. Alright, so let's talk about what the other options were and why I think Brayflox is going to be the best one. Here, we've got Dunscaith. You'd be very lucky if you could find 23 other people that want to farm this over and over again. And even if you did, a really, really good group is still going to take like 15 minutes or so. It's a pretty long alliance raid, so it's just not going to be fast. Praetorium, this is the sort of old reliable for these things where if you don't want to think at all, you can do that. You just queue for Praetorium and you get some tomes. If you got to do MSQ roulette for leveling alts, this is just, you'll get a lot of them passively from this anyway. Weeping City of Mach has the same issue that Dunscaith does. It's just going to take too long. But if you happen to get it in your roulette, great. Frontlines, this is, you know, more realistically how I'm actually going to be getting tomestones. I don't find the rewards particularly enticing this time around, so I'm not going to be grinding anything out. And I'm a little bit behind on some of my PvP stuff, PvP rewards, so I'll be doing this myself. This is always a good option for anyone who actually enjoys PvP. But now let's talk about the actual dungeon. So Hallowed Hard, this one just has too much forced downtime. There's the boss at the end with some downtime. There's other bosses where they go immune in the middle. This is going to waste a lot of your time, so it's not going to be ideal. Brayflox Longstop Hard, we talked about, that's what I'm going to be recommending. Castrum has the same issue that Praetorium does, although after the rework to a lesser extent, but still it's not going to be faster than Brayflox. Void Arc is another alliance raid, only gives you 3, so you have the same issue as before. This is Ultima Weapon, Porta Decumana. This is after they split Praetorium up. This just takes a long time. This fight is like, it's like 40 seconds of combat and 10 minutes of cutscenes, so it's not going to be fast enough. Dismail Darkhold, this one is kind of disappointing. It ends up being slower pretty much just because of the little blue circles that you have to stand on to activate. Cutter's Cry, this one is pretty decent, like I said, if you don't know how to play Blue Mage. I ran through this solo and it was pretty quick. The biggest downside to this is how big the actual dungeon actually is, so it takes a while to run through things. Sunken Temple of Karn is pretty decent. It's similar to Cutter's Cry in that you don't really have to think too much, but there are some scary things like the bees. They can't be frozen or petrified, so you have to actually kill them manually. So if you try to round up things too much in the first pull, you can just get stung to death. The second and third boss are both vulnerable to death spells though, so that's why this one's pretty nice. The first boss dies really quickly too. So again, if you're not able to burst the second boss in Brayflox, this one might be a pretty good option. We are missing... Oh, the page didn't load properly. There we go. So now let's talk about the Hildebrand trials. These are definitely put here intentionally to get people to queue for these, because people are doing these for their relic weapons. But Kugane Yohashi, this is a level 70. Blue Mage is less busted at level 70 compared to other levels, so we're not going to be killing this too quickly. You would need 8 competent, very competent Blue Mages to do this quickly, and at 2 Tomestones per clear, it's still not going to be faster than Brayflox. Battle in the Big Keep is alright, but if you get unlucky with who gets targeted with chickens and so on, it can slow down dramatically. And his second phase he just has a ton of health, so he does still take a while to kill. Big Bridge is probably the most promising of these 3. You can just burst both phases, but there is still going to be some downtime with him doing his RP and so on. So this one is not terrible, but again, you still need people who roughly know what they're doing. And even then, it's not going to be better than Brayflox. If you have 8 Giga Chad Blue Mages, this one might be, but that's not really going to happen. As for soloing, that's a little bit trickier this time around. Pretty much any of the dungeon options are going to be viable for that, provided you are able to do them. Cutter's Cry is probably the easiest, but it's still going to be pretty slow. But if you prefer to solo, you can still do that. But that's pretty much it for this event. Kind of unfortunate that it's, nerfed a little bit, but we're still going to be doing pretty well in terms of grinding. If you have any other ideas or suggestions, feel free to bug me. I'd be happy to see if maybe I missed something. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Blue Mage stuff, and have a good grind.